Today we're honored to welcome Trent Carter to the show. He is an addiction specialist, and I really believe he has an amazing story that people need to hear because I feel like a lot of us can relate to this in one way or another. Even if we're dealing with some type of bad habit, it's great to hear someone who has walked the path, right? And this man right here has done that, and I'm very excited to have him on the show today.
Anthony, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Very curious to hear your story, man. Like, how did you get into the addiction place, and how are you serving people today?
Yeah, so mine's maybe a little unique. I've not ever personally struggled myself. I don't have a close family member or loved one that's ever struggled. Honestly, I like to help people, right? So I'm a nurse practitioner, which meant that I had to be a nurse first and go back to school to become a nurse practitioner. And I don't think you go down that path if you don't genuinely like to help folks out. At least that's how it was for me. And while I would see, so whenever I was a nurse, I went into ICU. I was trauma ICU, neuro ICU, surgical, blah, 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 a bunch of different ICUs I worked in. And I would see folks that came through that would struggle with addiction. Although I'm trauma ICU, that's not necessarily what we were trying to do. We're trying to stabilize something else that got them there for a traumatic reason, right? And then send them on once they got downgraded. So I really didn't see addiction treatment until I went back to school to become a nurse practitioner. And it was by chance. I didn't have any formal education or clinical rotations in it. Just whenever I was working with at a primary care facility, at a private practice, he had just a handful of patients that he was helping that had struggled with opioid abuse. So again, very, very small amount, but I loved the interaction I would have with them to see the changes that they could make, how quickly someone's life could turn around, how appreciative they were, how it made me feel. It was just incredible. So that's really where I got exposure. And to try to make a long story short here, man, my wife is from New Mexico. We moved here to New Mexico. This was in Texas where I was going to school. And there's just a total lack of resources here. I saw how bad the struggle is, how bad the problem is, and how little help there is. So I said, hey, I can do something about that. So, in a nutshell, that's my story. That's how we got started.
Awesome, man. So it sounds like you're really impacted by seeing people get well from this and how it kind of transformed their life. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. To see someone completely change their life around. And really, I mean, such a short amount of time. If you look at someone that struggled for, a decade, let's say, and literally within a couple of weeks, they feel like a completely different person. They even look like a different person. Oftentimes, it's really incredible because it's for the positive, it's for the better.
Yeah, I would imagine that. I mean, someone kind of overcoming this kind of a dark cloud in their life, so it just kind of opens up so much room for possibility. So I definitely see that in different avenues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cool feeling.
Definitely. And then you said there's like a lack of resources, and you really think people need more help. So you kind of stepped up to the plate in terms of that.
Yeah, so statewide, New Mexico is considered underserved. So even in our larger areas like Albuquerque, it's still considered underserved. And we're talking medical treatment in general. And then when you want to look at substance abuse, mental health, it's even more so. We have some of the worst rates in the nation. Consistently, we're pretty much in the top 10 for overdoses and whatever you want to look at, alcohol abuse. So, yes, there's a major lack of resources. And especially if you look at these rural areas, New Mexico is very vast. You've got, I don't know the exact percentage, but a large chunk of the people are located in the Albuquerque metro area. So if you take that out, well, most other folks are going to be in a rural area, right? They may have an hour or two to drive to even get any kind of help. So very limited resources where they are. And that's exactly what Renew Health stepped in to do. That's our bread and butter, is trying to help these folks that are in the rural area.
Got it. That makes sense. I feel like a lot of people need help with this as well. So great job with that. Out of curiosity, how would you define addiction?
So I love that you asked this. And if you don't mind, I'm actually going to pull it up so I don't mess this up. I don't
Yeah.
mess this up. I use the ASAM definition of addiction. And I'll tell you exactly why I like to, I'm Googling it right now, why I like to use that. Let's see, just a second. I've got most of it memorized, but I won't say it word for word.
Yeah.
Okay, ASAM, which is the American Society of Addiction Medicine. So, believe it or not, addiction is actually a tough thing to define, and there's several different definitions of what addiction is. This is the one that I like. So, addiction is a treatable, chronic medical disease involving complex interactions among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and an individual's life experience. The second sentence is what I really like here. People with addiction use substances or engage in behaviors that become compulsive and often continue despite harmful consequences. So, why I really like that second sentence so much is despite harmful consequences. So, I've had plenty of patients come in. It's like, man, I'm an addict, or, my mother or my spouse or whatever told me I'm an addict, when in fact they weren't. Now, they had physical dependence because they were taking, let's say, in this scenario, I'll use prescription opioids, painkillers for a long time, but this was under medical supervision. They were doing what their doctor or medical provider was telling them. They never took more than what they were supposed to, so they took the correct dose. Just it's the nature of the beast. When you take opioids over time, you build a tolerance. You have to go up on the dose to get the same effect, and then you build a tolerance, and then you do this, and you form a physical dependence. It's just what's going to happen. That person is not an addict. Now, they have a physical dependence, and yes, they're going to experience withdrawal when they stop. But did they have drug seeking behavior? Did they have all these negative consequences and continue because of? So, anyways, I think that that second sentence is really important in that definition. And then the first sentence talks about the complexity, genetics, and environment, individuals' experiences, because it really is a complex thing that we're dealing with here.
100%. So there's different types of addiction. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I focus on substance abuse. Now, there's behavioral addiction, which is, it could be gambling or sex or eating, or, it can be those two. I do not treat those. Now, I'm not trying to undermine them. They're very real. It's just I focus on the substance side. So, alcohol, opioid, stimulants, things like that. So, methamphetamine, fentanyl, those are all the things that we treat, as well as mental health, because so often they're happening together. Someone's extremely anxious and depressed, and maybe they've got ADHD and they're using methamphetamine as well. So we also treat these underlying causes that could help lead to that.
Got it. That makes sense. So if somebody is struggling with addiction, but they don't really know, like perhaps they don't know if it's addiction or not, like how can somebody kind of define that and become aware if they're actually addicted?
Yeah. I love that you said aware. So, man, I call it the three pillars of change. I talk about this all the time. So I don't care what it is. If you're wanting to get in shape, if you're wanting to start a business, if you want to be a better spouse, I don't care. So these three pillars are going to apply, especially with what you just asked right there: awareness, education, and action. So having the awareness that something's going on, right, that maybe we want to make a change on, usually for something better, for something more positive. Then educating yourself, which would be, what are my resources? Google it, ask somebody, reach out. What resources are available in my community? But then taking that next step. So, hey, I've realized there's a problem. I've educated myself a little more on it to kind of have an understanding of what's going on. But if you stop there, change is not going to happen. It's taking that next step. It's having action, right? So if someone thinks that they're struggling, or they wonder if they have a problem, well, I think first of all, let's have awareness of what's going on. So, hey, man, a couple of years ago, I would get off work and I'd have a beer or two and kind of sit down and chill out. And that was how I'd wind down, and then I'd go get ready for bed or whatever. But then I realized that that spilled over into weekends, and now it's not a beer or two, but it's six or eight. And on weekends, I'm drinking 20. And when we look at the week, now I'm having whatever, 50 or 60 beers, whereas it used to be maybe 5 to 10 throughout the week, right? You see that progressive change there, heading in a direction that we probably don't want. So I think to just take a look at the picture there. And I mean, if you need to journal also, sometimes it's hard to really realize, but if you're writing these things down and keeping track of it, if you realize that your bank account's coming up a little short because you're spending a lot of money over here doing whatever that may be, that's in this scenario, right? You're running to the beer store every other day. I think that would be a great sign. If you're noticing changes within yourself, if you started to kind of become a recluse, right? You don't have enjoyment in things that you used to do that you found enjoyment in. You don't have you're not wanting your social interaction with your friends that you typically would, or you can't interact with them. If you still go out but you're miserable the whole time and you can't act like yourself, these are all changes. Seeing body changes. Now you don't have an appetite, or on the other end, you're gaining a ton of weight, right? So again, awareness of these changes that are going on, I think, is going to be the first step there. Sorry, long-winded answer to your question, but
I love that, man. I mean, it feels like education is really an important step because, as I said, like awareness is kind of first step to change. And I also find that we tend to fear what we don't understand. So it's good to have like knowledge of it so we kind of traverse it in a better way. So I like that you said that.
Thank
Also,
you.
if somebody is addicted to something, what is that robbing their life of? Like, what are they going to get to in their life once they overcome this? Like, is that something they can become aware of that kind of motivate them?
Man, yeah. So it's funny how many positive things can start to happen when you make a positive change in your life. And again, to not ramble on about things that are outside of what we're talking about, I'll keep it focused on substance abuse, but I see it so often. And it's, when you're doing something that's negative, you're harming yourself, you're doing this drug seeking behavior, which a lot of folks, if they can't afford it, that's when you start getting theft and you get, they're beating people up and stealing their money, or even, I mean, kicking doors in and robbing, right? All these things to support this habit, this drug addiction. Well, if you take the drug away, then all of a sudden that behavior is not associated. So now you're not in trouble with the law. Now you're not anxious when you're at home because you're worried about it. Are the cops after me? Or are they going to know that I stole that from them, or whatever it may be? And I mean, even the anxiety of, if I don't get a hold of this fentanyl because I have a physical dependence now, I'm going to go through withdrawal tonight, and it's going to suck. It's going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be miserable. And to live this cycle over and over and over, I mean, daily or weekly or whatever it may be. So it almost kind of feels like the world's against us, right? Because you have these negative patterns that are happening over and over, cyclical here. So when you can remove that, and now we do something positive, we sought the fentanyl, we've sought treatment for ourselves, which is a huge step. It takes a very bold and brave individual to do that. Then you find out, hey, I'll use Renew Health as an example because that's my clinic. I came into Renew Health and it really wasn't that scary. They actually treated me pretty good, and they gave me a lot of resources, and they made me feel good about myself. And now I'm not going through withdrawal, so I feel better physically. I'm not having to go and rob Hobby Lobby anymore, so I'm not anxious about that. And hey, guess what? I can actually hold a job. Now I've got some income coming. All of a sudden, all these positive things start happening. Hey, and then my brother that hasn't talked to me in 2 years, they finally came around, and now I'm not fighting with my girlfriend as much. And now all of a sudden, the world starts throwing these positive things at you. So I see this change happen all the time, and it's very exciting to see, because you have an individual coming in where their shoulders are slouched forward and they're looking down, and maybe they're afraid to make eye contact, or they want to cry or whatever. So all of a sudden, a few weeks later, they come in and they can look up at you and they can smile. It's really cool to see this same person have this change over just a few weeks.
That's awesome, man. I can imagine that too. It's probably a great feeling. I mean,
Yeah,
in your experience, like, why do people develop an addiction? Is it due to trauma? Is it due to, just stress? Like, how does that develop in most people?
very hard question to answer. Very complex here. We're all unique, right? And we all have different circumstances. We all have different things that influence us. So, yeah, childhood trauma is a huge factor there. There's the genetic component, meaning what? Well, let's say that two people take the same thing. One person hates it, but one person gets a euphoria off of it. They really like it. Well, this person's predisposed to maybe potentially go down that path compared to this other person that hated it. I can use myself as an example. I had a dental procedure. I took an elbow in basketball when I was in high school and had a root canal, and they prescribed me, I don't know, hydrocodone or something, some kind of painkiller. I don't remember what it was. And I was in pain, so I took it. I hated it. Man, it made me itchy. It made me uncomfortable. I hated it. So I didn't take any more than I had to. I was like, Mom, get this away from me. I don't want it, right? As opposed to someone that maybe it made them feel really good. And you could see, right, what kind of influence that would have on someone wanting to take that substance. Man, if you've got generational abuse addiction, meaning grandparents, parents, right, the likelihood that, because you're growing up in that kind of environment, that kind of household, so the likelihood of that next generation falling into that is pretty high. Um, right off the bat, a tragic story that comes to mind is one of my patients. He was telling me, he was my age, he's probably mid 30s when he came into me. And he said the first time he ever used heroin was when his father injected him at the age of 12. And that was kind of like his passing into adulthood, like 12 years old. Okay, here we go. Sit down, and shot him up with heroin at 12. And that's how he got started, which I mean, you're 12 years old and you want to impress your dad, and your dad does it, and I don't know what he thought of it at the time, but it obviously set that guy up for failure for the next 20 years until he came in to get some help, which we did successfully help him, which is awesome. So yeah, again, there's so many factors. Pain is a very, I don't want to overlook pain, man. Pain is a huge cause. I mean, whether you're treating it yourself by getting a hold of something illegally, or if you go to your doctor and you get a prescription. And like I said earlier, you build that tolerance, then the dose goes up, then the tolerance and the dose goes up, and then maybe they cut you off. And so you're still hurting. So what do? You go find some heroin to help with the
Yeah.
pain.
I mean, I'm all for rites of passage, but I don't know about that one, man.
That one's a pretty serious rite of passage, man. And yeah, like I said, this guy, I mean, it was approximately give or take 20 years later when I met him, and he's telling me that story, and he had struggled his entire life ever since that moment.
Man, you mentioned journaling before to kind of become aware of some things, some tendencies, some habits, and thoughts and things like that. I think it's like a great step as well because like the more awareness we can shine on the moment and how we're behaving in certain situations, and triggers as well, like what actually starts us to engage in that thing as well. So I think that's really key as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for shining light on that, man. I mean, your points are fantastic there. It can be tough when you're in the moment and day to day, right? And you don't see that transition, that progress, or I love that you said triggers too. How did I feel leading up to it? How did I feel during? How did I feel after? How did I respond? What could I have done differently? Right. And we talk through these things with our patients, but it's something that they can do on their own, especially if it's something coming up that you know is a trigger. If it's a birthday or like Thanksgiving is a big one. Families get together. A lot of times they're drinking, while they're celebrating Thanksgiving and all that. And that can be a huge point of stress and trigger for someone. So we start way in advance, 4 or 6 weeks in advance. It's, hey, let's start getting a plan together. What are we going to do? How are we going to respond? Who's going to be there? Blah, 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 right? To where our patients are prepared going into that environment well in advance.
That makes sense, man. So when it comes to rehab centers, what is success rate? Do most of them succeed, or how does that work exactly?
So no one's ever 100%. Nothing's 100%. Look, Advil's not 100% success, right? um, I don't know the exact statistics. It's going to vary based off of, well, what is it that they're struggling with? And maybe some demographics are going to have higher success rates than other. I can tell you it's far below what we'd like. What we'd like to see is 100%. And again, with rehab, kind of a broad term because there's inpatient versus outpatient. I think that a lot of people, well, at least in my experience, when they say rehab, they're thinking of inpatient, so overnight stay, right? They go stay for 30 days or 6 months or whatever it may be. We're outpatient only, Ever New Health, by the way. That's what we do. Um, Inpatient is great. That being said, there needs to be something in place upon reentry back into the real world, getting released or graduating from rehab, meaning it's not reality for everyday life. Now, and I'm not trying to bash on rehab at all. Please don't take it that way. But what I'm saying is when you're there, it's a very controlled environment. There's a ton of support, right? You've got 24/7 staff. They keep you busy. You're working on yourself. You've got these support teams helping you with it and very active throughout the whole thing, which is awesome. But when you get done and you go home, right back to that exact same environment that you were using in anyways, all of that's not there. And that's where you continue this. You don't just get to go for 30 days and then we're done. Okay, we're good. I haven't used in 30 days or 31 days or whatever. You need to continue whatever that is moving on. And if it's something like what we do at Renew Health, or if it's counseling, or what I like to call manipulating your environment. If it's, hey, look, you people that I live with or you people that are around me that we hang out all the time, you're toxic and you're not going to be in my life anymore, at least not right now until you make some changes. But right now, man, I just got to working on myself for the last 90 days or whatever. Like, we're not around right now. If it's clearing out whatever you may have in your house, if it's, I don't know, man, you've got to change these things to set yourself up for success. So I think that's very, very important because it is an ongoing journey. So inpatient's fantastic. I view it as really like a reset or a kickstart for some people, but then you've got to continue on once you get out.
I love that you brought up environment because feel that is so key. Like the people that were around, the circumstances, like a lot of times if we change the circumstance in a sense as much as we can, the habit makes it so much easier to fall off. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because if we're around people who are doing that thing, we're trying to quit, it's going to make it so much harder. Like when it comes to diet, for example, if we're trying to, change our diet, we have all this ultra processed food in the cabinet. It's going to be make it very difficult. So the best thing is to not have that anywhere near your house,
That's
and
right.
health kind of becomes more on automatic.
Yeah, make it difficult to get, right? Make it inconvenient. If you can just go open the cabinet and there it all is, versus, hey man, I'm hungry, I want a snack and I want a quick fix here. Oh, there's nothing in the cabinet, and I got to get in the car and I got to drive down the road and I got to get to the store and I got to. It's inconvenient versus, well, just drink some water or suck it up or whatever, eat, make some eggs, something that's a little healthier, right? Um, I mean, it's the same thing for the people, man. It's, hey, I want to get back in shape. Well, if you're hanging out with people that go to the gym versus if you're hanging out with somebody that's preparing for, I don't know, a hot dog eating competition, which one's going to probably be a better motivator for you to get in shape, right? The people that are working out versus the people that are prepping to go eat a whole lot, which I know that's maybe not the best analogy. It's just the first thing that came to me. But yeah, your environment, that's the people, that's the things, that's what you're watching, that's what you're listening to, that's what you're doing or what you're not doing. All of those things I'm roping into this umbrella of environment, and they all need to be accounted for.
100%. I think it's important to create a culture of excellence. Like as you just mentioned, there's a lot that goes into it. Like what goes in your mind, what goes in your body, what goes like what are you listening to, what are you watching? All these things they kind of make up our mental tapestry in a way to take action. And it's such an important thing. I talk about that a lot on the show. So thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's a saying called "just say no," right? Like, what is your take on that exactly? Is that an effective statement? Like, what are your thoughts?
It can be easier said than done. It's a lot easier to say no if you manipulate your environment. So don't put yourself in that scenario to begin with. Then you don't have to say no, right? Now, I understand that's not always feasible, but the majority of the time, we can make these decisions. I mean, hey, if you're going out and you're partying every night and you're staying out at the bars till 2 or 3 in the morning and then you're highly intoxicated and trying to find a way home, like chances are something could happen. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to, it's not a guarantee by any means, but you're putting yourself in a situation where something that is not positive could happen versus, well, I went to bed early tonight because I'm going to wake up early tomorrow and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do a little studying on whatever. And then I'm going to go grab some coffee with one of my friends. Like you're staying out of trouble there, right? You're making decisions that are set. What was the term you used? Setting up for excellence. You worded that
Yeah,
better.
creating culture of excellence.
There you go. So if you're going to bed early and getting up early and you're doing things to better yourself, you're constantly working on yourself, chances are you're probably not going to get in trouble versus going out and doing these things that increase the likelihood of harm or get in trouble.
100%. I feel like the more personal development work you engage in, like the more positive habits that you add to your life, you just the bad things just kind of fall off in a sense because you realize there's something better and you no longer want it in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think I think everybody should always work on themselves. If it's personally, professionally, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it is, I do. I hold myself to that standard and I work on myself every single day. And so I'm okay with saying I think other people should too because I hold myself to that standard. And if you're always working on yourself, look, any decision that you make, you're faced with two choices, right? Yes or no. So is this going to better me or is this going to potentially pull away from what it is I'm working towards? And again, that can be whatever. I know I've used getting in shape as an analogy, but it could be if financially you want to make more money or if you want to have a better relationship with your kids or your spouse or whatever it may be. So when when you're faced with an option of going and doing something, whatever it may be, is this going to help towards that or is it in fact going to hinder towards that progress? And I don't see anything wrong with every decision being like that.
Yeah, power of self assessment is so key. Like taking action and then kind of evaluating our action, just alignment with our goals or not, essentially.
That right there. So evaluating, self reflection, right? And goals. So I don't ever go into tomorrow without knowing what it is I'm trying to achieve tomorrow. Now things come up and maybe that'll pivot, but when I go to bed at night, I already know what it is I'm working towards tomorrow. And then I evaluate too. I mean, daily. And I mean, I'm not sitting down step by step checking off. I don't mean like that. I'm just talking mentally. I look over what it is I have going on, what I'm working towards daily and weekly, and even monthly and yearly. Did we achieve that? Did we work towards that? If we didn't, why? Why? Okay, well, this is what I need to do different. Or, yeah, we did. Cool. So, did I not set my sights high enough? Was I not ambitious enough, right? Someone that's very hard on themselves here. Or, again, the positive things that are leading towards what I want versus the negative things that are pulling me, that are distracting from that. And yeah, it'll also keep your butt out of trouble.
I love that, man. I mean, also, if the saying just say no, I also feel like, as you said, it's easier said than done. You really need to back it up with your character in a sense. Like, have a strong sense of identity, know your why, know your values, all these things. Like, that's what actually enables that action to take place and actually stick.
Yep, totally. Yeah, what are your values? What are your metrics? What are important to you? Or, and then I think leading by example, right? Holding yourself accountable, leading by example, again, for anything. If you want to make a change, be the leader in that change. And I think that anybody can achieve anything they really want. If that's not saying it's going to be easy, it's not saying there won't be hardship, it's not saying there won't be knockdowns along the way, but I'm telling you, it's achievable. A quote that I'm trying to think of who said this. Pretty sure I heard it. I don't know how to say his last name. Robert, whatever his name is on Shark Tank. I heard this from him. I follow him on LinkedIn. But he said, we often overestimate what we can achieve in a year and often underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. And I think that's very powerful. It's like, oh, this year I'm going to get this. And then we fall short on it. But
Yeah.
then when you look at this timeline of 10 years, it's like, well, I'm going to achieve this and this, but over 10 years, like how much we can accomplish. And it's that compound effect of your habits, like we talked about earlier, but the daily compound of constantly progressing towards whatever it is you're trying to get to. And it just snowballs, especially when you're persistent and consistent over time. Then you take a look back at where you were 2 years ago and you're like, my gosh, I accomplished all that over the last 2 years. Incredible. And I'm testament to that myself personally. It can be mind boggling what you can achieve when you set your mind to it.
100%. I heard Tony Robbins say that as well. I mean, I love that
Yeah,
statement because it really is about the small actions that we take every single day. It's kind of like the compound effect, like all these small habits that we engage in our lives, whether good or bad. Taking 100% responsibility for that because that's going to lead to our results at the end of the day.
yep. That's a fantastic book, by the way. For any of you listeners out there, I strongly encourage the compound effect. And then you talked about ownership. Extreme Ownership, too, is a fantastic book. It's intense, but, I think that the man that wrote it is a total stud. And
Yeah.
Navy SEAL who led the whole campaign over in Iraq. I think that he is an intense individual just to begin with. But great book. Take ownership for whatever's going on in your life. Quit pointing the finger at everybody else and blaming them. It's happening to you because of your decisions, where you put yourself. Now, sometimes, well, a lot of times, unfortunate circumstance, wrong place, wrong time. I'm not trying to discredit that. But I think that if we take ownership on who we are, where we are, our actions that got us there, and then try to work towards these positive things, persistent consistency, it's just going to compound over time. And then
100%, man. Jocko
you
Willick
can,
right there.
yes, it is old Jocko, man. Yeah, yeah. And then he had to follow Dichotomy of Ownership. I think his second book on that was also pretty good. But Extreme Ownership is a fantastic book.
A dichotomy of leadership, that is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, 100% responsibility. Uh, some people kind of confuse that. It doesn't mean that everything is your fault, as you said. Like, things happen, right? But we get to decide what happens next, which means that, that has
Mindset.
personal agency in your life, right?
Mindset. Absolutely. How do you interpret the input? Is how I like to word that. It's your mindset on everything, man. It's you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off. They pull out in front of you. Are you going to get pissed off and yell and scream and try to catch up and shoot them the finger? Or is it, whatever. I don't care. Well, me personally, I'd take the second option because the first one, now my heart rate's going up. My blood pressure's through the roof. I'm frustrated and I'm angry. And now maybe I get in a wreck because I'm trying to catch up to this person when it turns out they didn't even see you. They didn't even mean it's some little old lady that didn't even see you, right? And you get all worked up over nothing. Or if it is somebody that's intentionally trying to be rude, who cares, man? Go have your day. I hope you have a great day if that's how you're going to act towards people, because I'm going to have a good day because I can control how I feel. And yeah, that just comes down to mindset. So you have a setback that seems like the world's against you. Well, are we going to view it as the world's against us? Or is it, okay, I've been faced with a hurdle here. Am I going to go over it, under it, around it? Or are we going to pivot and go a different direction? Because those are all options.
100%. I feel like it's living intentionally, like because we all go through these things throughout our day and throughout our lives. But like, are you self-assessing it? Is this alignment with your goals? And I feel like being the model for other people around us is so key because there's going to be a lot of circumstances that come up, and fear is contagious, but also courage is as well.
It's true. Yeah. Be the person you want to be around. And it becomes infectious. And all of a sudden you start to attract people because they want to be around you. Because, and when I say infectious, I mean that in a very good way, right? You're the person that people want to be around because you're a positive individual. You treat people well. You're working on yourself. You're taking care of yourself. You build them up, right? I think that rising tides lift all ships, meaning you build the others up around you. It's going to build you up too. I think it's actually one of the best ways to get somewhere in life is building others up around you, and it's just going to push you up too. So, yeah,
I
be
love that,
someone
man.
that you aspire to be around.
Yeah, like celebrating other people's success is so key. Like wanting others to win, because a lot of us we kind of like if someone has something that we want, we kind of like we get jealous and whatever, and we cannot get to that place that we want to from that type of low energy. We have to actually celebrate success.
That's right. If someone's got something that you want, I'm like, hey, how do I become their friend? Because I want to figure out how you got that. I want to learn from you, right? I'm not going to be jealous and talk bad about you. I want to be near you so that I can learn what you do to get that because that's exactly what I'm after. I'll tell you, man, my support circle, I only have positive people in my life. And if you're not in my life. My friends, my family, when I achieve something great, man, they build me up so good. But it goes both ways. When they do something great, it's, oh my, damn, this is awesome. This is great. Let's celebrate that. And everybody's just as excited about it. And that's the way it should be. So, again, for anybody that's listening and watching here, that's the kind of people you want in your life. And I do think that maybe you should do a little bit of self evaluation here because if you're thinking, man, this person or that person that's near me, they're always trying to drag me down. It's toxic. They're negative. I might evaluate how much energy and time you're giving that person.
Yeah. And if you want to attract those type of people, you have to become that type of person, like you said. Like,
Boom.
I'm excited for you, man, for your success. That's something I say a lot, like, or something like along those lines. And like, if you want those type of people, become that type of person.
There's got to be give and take, not just take. Yeah. Again, rising tide is going to lift all ships, right? You build them up, then they're going to turn around to build you up because you've created that kind of environment. As opposed to if you're only taking, 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 eventually they're going to get pretty tired of supporting you because you'll never give it back to them. It should go both ways.
Definitely, man. So you talk about detox as well. Like, is that enough for people to do, or do people need to go beyond that?
So, again, every individual is different. Um, I'll say in my practice and my experience, most folks need help beyond that. Now, I still know plenty. My grandfather, well before I was even alive, apparently the man used to really enjoy his alcohol, and one day he put it down and never picked it back up, and it's been, I don't know, 60 something years since. So you hear those stories all the time, but I would argue that they're not the norm, just from my experience and what I do day in and day out with the thousands of people that I've interacted with, right? Um, because you detox, this is great. We've gotten it out of our body, but you can still have those very, very intense cravings. And if you're haven't given the brain time to reset and you change this environment that you're in, so often, something stressful in life happens and we revert back to what we know, which for this instance, we're talking about substance abuse, whatever that may be. And it's, oh man, I got fired today, or I got in a fight with my boyfriend or girlfriend, or whatever it may be, and it's we go right back to what we know that's comforting for us, which again in this instance is substance abuse. And so that's where treatment continued beyond detox would really come into play. So I think a natural follow-up question from you could be, well, then how long does somebody need to be in treatment? My answer again is everybody's different. So if it was a perfect world and I had it my way, we're talking at least 2 years because you get a lot of rewiring, you get a lot of chemical changes going on in the brain, okay, to reset these things. But it's still not, okay, hey, it's been 24 months, exactly, boom, we can stop treatment because I'm going to ask that individual, okay, well, let's talk about your life. How is your, how's your job? How's your financial status? Not meaning are you rich, just meaning are you comfortable? Are you able to pay your bills? Are you able to put food on the table? Are you able to put clothes on your children where they can go to school? Right? How's your relationship status with your spouse? How's your stress? How's your anxiety? How's your depression? How's your all these different things, right? And if you got a bunch of those things that are out of whack, you got a lot that's going on in your life, nah, man, it's not time to come off the treatment because the likelihood of relapse for you, unfortunately, is still pretty high.
I like
Versus,
that.
let's get some of these things in order. Let's get control of some of these things, get them in a better place. And then, yes, look, I'm not trying to get someone hooked on treatment or continued treatment for financial gain or anything like that. I'm trying to change their life. And if we had 2 great, awesome years just to turn around and have a setback the second we stop treatment, then what did I really help that person do? Yeah, we had 2 awesome years, but I'm looking for lifelong change here. So that's the approach I'm gonna take with that individual.
I love that, man. I mean, that's why I talk about becoming the greatest version of yourself. You know, it's so important because we may have certain breakdowns in life every now and then, but if we work consistently on our health, wealth, relationships, like everything, then we're able to handle that setback much more gracefully. Because if everything is just on fire in our lives, then it makes it very difficult.
Hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think that positive things tend to the universe just tends to give when you're doing positive things, meaning working on yourself, because it's your mindset, it's the way that you view the world, it's the way that you treat people, the way that you interact, it's the things that you do, it's the actions that you do, or again, just as importantly, that you don't do, right? And the universe tends to have a way to pay us back for that.
Yeah, I mean, we can either live in a virtuous circle or like a downward spiral, right? And we get to choose. And what I like to say is like right now, this moment is a fresh moment. Like we had so many missed opportunities in the past potentially, but right now we get to take control of this moment and step forward. Like that's coincides with 100% responsibility.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And seize the moment, right? Look, man, if it looks scary or whatever, hey, I want to talk to that girl or I want to take this chance on that job or I want to go back to school, just do it. If you fail, who cares? Nobody's going to remember anyways. We're just going to keep on living our life. We can learn from that failure to then do something different next time. So, yeah, I think take the chance. If we're just living in our comfort zone, this is something else I really love to talk about. If we're just living in our comfort zone, we're just complacent, man, we're not growing. We're not making change. You got to stretch those boundaries. You got to get outside your comfort zone. If I'm going to go do something that makes me a little nervous or I can feel my heart rate rising a little bit, that's where I want to be because I know that I'm growing. I know that I'm pushing myself and I'm making myself better. And then eventually, my heart rate's not going to rise on that because now I'm comfortable with it. And guess what? I got to stretch that comfort zone boundary just a little bit more. And then you see this circle is just getting bigger, right? I'm becoming a better version of myself because I'm very intentional on pushing myself.
I like that, man. Like stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Like you said, seize the moment. And how do you do that exactly? You do that by staying on top of your positive habits, your practices, your mindset, all these types of things. Because as you said, like opportunity is going to come, but are we going to be able to take advantage of them or not? And it depends so
Oh,
much on our state of mind, as we talked about a lot.
absolutely. And if you're constantly working on yourself and trying to become a better version of yourself, then you're going to be ready whenever that moment comes, whatever it may be. If you're trying to educate yourself, if you're trying to, have a better vocabulary where you can be a better speaker, again, taking care of it. I keep mentioning health because health is very important to me, right? I mean, I got up this morning, I took my kids to school, and I went to the gym. And I think when you take care of yourself, because it shows discipline, it shows that you're able to say no to certain things. It shows that you can stay consistent with something when you don't always want to. And I think that people tend to pick up on that. So if you're trying to have a meeting with someone or get to know somebody or whatever it is, right off the bat, before they've ever spoken to you, their mind, they've already got an ideal of you because they can tell you're in shape when you come walking in. And I already know a lot about that person. That's not to say that you can't talk to somebody that's not in shape. That's not at all. I mean, if somebody's thinking that, they're just not listening to what I'm saying here. I'm just saying you can get a pretty idea of that person's values right off the bat, just because of the way that they take care of themselves.
Yeah, man. I feel like a hindrance to personal development is beating ourselves up because, like, we're talking about this path of growth, and we have to understand there's going to be some times that we fail. Sometimes we don't step up to the plate, and the key is to kind of accept that and kind of embrace the moment in a sense, and assess it and move forward,
Yeah, yeah, certainly. You got some great points, man. Yeah, you're a good talker. You got a lot of good things to touch on.
Same here, man. I mean, same with you. I mean, when it comes to failure, like it goes to education. Like failure is really an opportunity to learn. And as the saying goes, we can't really fail unless you don't learn from the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you don't fail till you give up, man. If you can just learn from it and grow from it, maybe it didn't work out like you thought it was going to. Sometimes that's for the better. Again, I'm walking testimony of that. But as long as you can learn and grow and pivot, right, continue to take that action, there is no failure. You're just, it just didn't go the way that you thought that it would, which is not always a bad thing, I promise.
Definitely. I mean, persistence, because within that process, you're forging your character to go to the next level. Like, I
Hmm.
feel like life kind of gives us these challenges in a way to kind of forge your character to hold the success wattage, in a sense, of the life that we want.
Mm. Now you're philosophical too. Yeah, I mean, totally, man. I mean, life, it's going to always throw something at you. Again, I don't care if you got everything in the world going for you. Life is going to happen. Something's going to happen. And when you're taking care of yourself and you're constantly trying to progress, constantly trying to grow, you've got a stronger foundation, right? To help whatever that is that life just threw at you. You don't have to fall as far because your foundation's a little stronger, or whatever analogy you want to try and spin off of that. But you're just not going to go as deep down whatever hole that may be. You're not going to slip up as much and fall down because of the support system you have in place and because of the, yeah, I mean, whatever, if you have knowledge on, it's tough because I don't really have a scenario I'm trying to talk to here. I'm just kind of spitballing this. But, if you're constantly working on yourself, again, having better vocabulary, speaking better, having knowledge on whatever this certain subject is that we're talking about, you're just going to set yourself up for success.
100%, man. And you talk about the opioid crisis as well. And that's such an important topic. I've talked about that a few times, but like, can you define what that is and like, what is the state of affairs we're dealing with here?
Yeah, the opioid crisis, man. So we're kind of in the third wave of it. Now, don't get me wrong. Opioid crisis has gone on for thousands of years. Okay. I mean, worldwide, it's gone for thousands of years, but we're talking modern day here. So, just brief history for the third wave of this opioid crisis in America that we're currently dealing with really started in the 90s with prescription pain pills, Purdue Pharma, and all of that. Again, I can talk more about that if you'd like or not. I can move on. The second wave was heroin. Now, this third wave is what we're in right now with your fentanyl. And what it is widespread drug abuse nationwide. Again, all over the place, but I'm just talking about America for the sake of this. To where we've got unprecedented overdoses and addiction rates. Now, these last couple of years, actually, the overdose rates have gone down a little bit, which a lot of people are saying such a great thing. It is a great thing, but the numbers are still way too high. It's great. We have 90,000 overdoses instead of 110,000 overdoses. Like, yeah, that's a pretty significant decrease, but we still got whatever that is. Tens of thousands of people dying unnecessarily. It's one of the leading causes of death in America, right? It's just, and it's preventable.
100%. I mean, like, what are the numbers? Like, what are the amount of people who are dying from this?
So we're typically a couple years behind on those numbers just because it's very difficult for whatever agency, CDC and these different agencies that are compiling these numbers to put out. So, man, I mean, let's just do a quick Google search. I think we're right around 90 something thousand, 97,000, give or take, or something like that. Let's see, drug overdose rates. Just so that way I'm not saying the wrong numbers here.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I really thought this would be a little quicker to find. Sorry. Well, this one right here says 105,000 overdoses in 2023. Yeah, there we go. 105,000 persons in the U.S. died from drug overdose in 2023 from illicit or prescription drugs. So there you go. Now that's not just going to be your fentanyl. That's going to be fentanyl or heroin or methamphetamine or that's kind of everything that's being roped into that. I'm pretty sure without reading into everything that stat was saying there, but yeah, still well over 100,000 overdoses a year
Yeah, I
happening in
mean,
America.
I believe like 100,000 people died in 2021. I believe that. So I mean, it's kind of seemingly right around those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like 2021, 2020, according to this chart I'm looking at, 2022 peaked and then 2023 went down. Looks like a few percent there. Um, yeah, man. Way too
Do
many.
you briefly want to get into the corruption of how that kind of started?
The corruption of how it started?
Yeah, are you familiar with like Purdue Pharma and kind of like the
Yeah. 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 So talking about back in the 90s. So basically, so Purdue Pharma, honestly, marketing geniuses. I've got to give them that. Unfortunately, it was for a very terrible cause, which is greed. So in the 90s, Purdue Pharma was marketing Oxycontin. They put out all these studies to which they had funded. So if you want to talk about conflict of interest, right, and being able to sway things in your own way, that's exactly what they did to say that their painkiller, Oxycontin, was non addictive. And they had an absolutely massive sales force to push this, hospitals, doctors' offices, all of that. And then as soon as sales started, I mean, they instantly went up. I mean, sales were just through the roof. But whenever they'd stall, then they came out and introduced this fifth vital sign, which was pain. So instead of just blood pressure and heart rate and your oxygen status, things like that, temperature, then it's pain also. And so this was really implemented in the hospital for your people that are staying overnight to push drugs, to push pain pills, right? Well, you need to manage their pain. And they just came out with higher and higher and higher doses because people would build a tolerance. So, I don't remember all the doses, but like tens and 20s, and then they came out like a 60, and then I think they came out like a 200 milligram or something. I mean, just a crazy high dose because it's non addictive, right? It's good for you. We're just taking care of your pain. Well, look, again, like we've already talked about earlier, the nature of the beast of opioids. Opioid is a very effective painkiller. And I don't want to scare everybody away from taking an opioid because if you do, in fact, have pain, acute pain that's going on, it's a very effective painkiller. You have whatever surgery, you take it for a couple days or even a week after, and then you titrate down, and then you come off the stuff. And now your pain was managed so that you're not so miserable and you could continue with your physical therapy and rehab and get right back into life. But that's not the scenario we're talking here. Purdue was pushing this long term, non addictive, safe for you, basically take it for the rest of your life until people started dying. And it created this first wave of the modern opioid epidemic that we have. And it was, in fact, just for greed and money. And obviously, there's been tons, billions. We're talking in the billions, the opiate settlement lawsuits that came of it. As a matter of fact, I heard something on a podcast. I can't remember the specifics, but I think that there's potentially something else that they could get sued for that's in the works right now. So they're not through it. They could potentially continue to get sued here. Um, yeah, man, but it doesn't change all the lives or bring back all the lives that were lost because of it.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I mean, I believe things are changing now, but like, the reason why pharmaceutical companies continue to uh, just have so much crime and corruption in a sense is because they don't get like any type of pushback really. Like nobody goes to jail. Nothing bad really happens except they pay a small fine, which is absolutely nothing to what they made off the drug.
That's what happened with them. They were big into philanthropy. I mean, they did in fact give a lot back, especially for like schools. They did a lot of good with their money, let's say, but they were really concerned with their name and their reputation. And so a lot of these buildings they pulled their name off, right? So you slap them with a fine, which is a large fine, but compared to what they made, not necessarily. And then you pull their name off of some buildings, and then it was just done. Like they get to continue living their life as billionaires. Now they're ashamed and nobody likes them, but they're still billionaires and get to live whatever life it is that they want to live compared to the thousands and thousands and thousands and I don't know the numbers, but I mean millions maybe of people that they negatively impacted.
Yeah, man. So, what is your experience with high performing people and addiction?
Quite a bit, actually. um, I've had, or I currently have many, many patients that are high achieving, high success people that have struggled or currently struggle with addiction. Um, some of which want to make a change and others do it intentionally. So one is an attorney who is using Adderall, and he was obviously not getting Adderall from me. And as he says, is like, man, I don't have ADHD. I take this stuff because it gives me an edge, right? It gives me more energy. I can work longer days. It makes me sharper. I'm a little quicker cognitively, which is exactly what I need. And so for him, it was kind of like a cheat code that he was using to get an edge here. And is he an addict? I don't know. Probably not. No, but he's abusing an amphetamine intentionally as a very high achieving, successful attorney.
Yeah, man. It's what I find like if you really want to achieve a lot in your life, it really depends on the come from. Like, where did you come from? Are you coming from a place of love or a place of fear? Because if we're coming from a place of fear, at the end of the day, we're gonna not be fulfilled in the end. I find like because if we're wanting to change from a place from not being enough, or we're coming from this certain pain. I mean, we can use that to a certain extent, but I feel like we have to transition at some point.
Yeah, certainly, man. It may be fun and games in the meantime, right? And you may achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve, but in the long term, what are the consequences? What harm may have been done? And one thing also that guides a fair amount of my decision making is at the end of the day, I got to live with myself. And I've got values and I've got metrics and I've got things that are important to me and, how I want to be as an individual. And there's been several times where I didn't make a certain action or decision based upon that. It's like, man, I got to live with myself at the end of this. And there's just no way that I'm going to bear that burden. You know?
Yeah, man. I feel like love is the most important fuel at the end of the day. Like I keep in mind, like the decisions I make, it's not just about me. They're going to influence people who look up to me as well. It's going to influence everyone around me in one way or another. So it's like when I'm by myself, I feel very solid in that because I know that like I'm watching, but also my energy is going to impact other people around me. So just keep those decisions in mind as you go out through the day.
Yeah, absolutely. You never knew. You never know who you may impact or have influence on. And it could be somebody at the grocery store that you held the door open for, or that you're both coming up to the line together and you let them get in front of you, right? I mean, you never know what kind of impact you could have on somebody, let alone somebody that's close to you, right? If it's I don't know, a younger sibling or a close friend or a coworker, or even if it's just somebody that you see in passing, but you see them frequently because y'all go to the same place to get coffee or, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
They may be looking at you and learning from you or looking up to you even, and you have absolutely no clue.
Yeah, we're always an example. The question is, what type of an example do you want to be?
Absolutely. And I think that if you follow through with these things that we've talked about, working on yourself, having very positive mindset, and just all these things that we've talked about, chances are you're probably going to set a pretty good example for these folks that are looking at you.
100%, man. All right, this has been awesome. I love the work that you do. I appreciate you sharing your story and your work. And, we talked about a lot of cool things on this interview, like opioid crisis. What is an addiction actually? All these types of things that kind of get people thinking. Kind of because the more awareness we have about something, the easier it is to change. So, is there anything we'd like to add, or have we covered it?
Man, I just want to say for the folks that are watching or listening to this that do struggle or they know somebody that's struggling from substance abuse, look, help is out there. Okay, it doesn't matter where you're at in this journey or the loved one that you have in this journey, whether they're at rock bottom or not. A myth that I like to talk about because I hate the myth is, well, I've got to be at rock bottom to go get it. No, you don't. You don't have to be at rock. Says who? Why? Why do we want to keep this path for 2 more years until we get to rock bottom when I can make a change today? Right? We can take it
Yeah,
back to where we talked about being in shape and working out. Like, hey, if I already see him get a little bit of gut, let's make a change on it before we get a big old gut, and then we try to make a change, right? So
yeah.
help is out there. I'll take this moment actually to mention this. We haven't talked about it. So a couple months ago, I'm now a published author. I put a book out, The Recovery Tool Belt, and it is a fantastic resource for anybody who's struggling, a loved one, or somebody that just wants to better educate. And I wrote this book in a way to help any of those folks, no matter where you're at. You don't have to be in New Mexico. You don't have to be my patient. You don't have to come to Renew Health. But I've compiled all of this into one very easy read. It's an easy book. There's some humor in there. There's a lot of patient stories in there to where I could try to help some help some folks out no matter where they're at. If they, again, this is not for me to get more patients, and you don't have to be in the state that I'm practicing in. It's for anybody, anywhere, any point across that journey. There's something in there for you. So the recovery tool belt, check it out.
Awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. When it
Yep.
comes to rock bottom, as you said, like, unfortunately, a lot of people do get there, but it doesn't have to be like that. So that's why people like you are doing the work. And, we're going to continue this and make a real change. So appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of fun. Great conversation.
Absolutely. And if there's anywhere else people can connect with you, would you like to let us know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm all over the social medias and I have a personal website. It's I'm Trent Carter. So I'm trentcarter.com or, at I'm Trent Carter. Or for folks that are wanting more information on substance abuse, you could check out Renew Health, which is my clinic. So renewhealth.com. We have a daily blog that we post on any topic that you have questions on. I guarantee you we've written on it or something very similar to it. All credible. It's not things that we just throw out there, right? Everything is fact sourced in there. And again, our socials for Renew Health, which we post daily, is Renew Health NM. That's going to be on your Facebook and Instagram and everything.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing all your insights with us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been really awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.